to Discover You Radio's Discussions. The Brief.
They walk in the door, they see a line, and they pass it up and go right to your desk and scream, "I'm an employee!" They're not that special. Get your guide to customer service by Brennan Eagle. You can find it on Amazon and Kindle.
Welcome to The Debate. I am Dakota Freeman.
And I am Lauren Miller.
So imagine, if you will, watching one of those corporate training videos designed for automotive customer service.
Oh, the ones where everything is just, absolutely perfect.
Exactly. The moment you hit play, you are transported to this very specific, almost utopian alternate reality. The lighting in the service drive is pristine, the floors are spotless.
Right, zero oil stains anywhere.
None at all. There is this soft, ambient quiet in the air, which is only interrupted by the cheerful, welcoming chime of a single customer walking through the glass doors.
Yeah, and standing behind the counter is the service advisor, perfectly groomed, completely unbothered, with literally nothing else to do but smile warmly, make immediate eye contact, and recite the script. Welcome, I'll be right with you.
It is a beautifully sanitized vision of commerce. I mean, everything is orderly, predictable, and just entirely clean.
But then you step into an actual service lane at, say, 7:45 on a Monday morning, and that utopian vision just completely shatters against reality.
Oh, it really does.
You have 3 people glaring at you from the waiting room because they are going to be late for work. 2 phone lines are simultaneously flashing on hold. A tow truck is loudly dropping off a vehicle that smells distinctly like an electrical fire.
A very specific, awful smell.
Right? And a technician is standing at your desk demanding to know, right this very second, if they have authorization to tear down a hot engine block.
So today we are directing our discussion specifically toward the corporate executives, the regional managers, and the private owners who design these customer service protocols. The people who write the rules, but who frankly rarely spend their days down in the trenches of the service floor.
We are looking at the foundational arguments presented in Brandon Eagle's book, Your Guide to Customer Service, the Mirror Edition.
And the core question we are tackling today is this. Do corporate training videos and customer service index surveys, what the industry calls the CSI system, do they represent a necessary framework for baseline accountability?
Or, on the flip side, do they function as disconnected mechanisms of financial abuse that essentially punish frontline advisors for systemic failures they cannot control?
I will be arguing that these corporate tools, while, yes, perhaps imperfect in their daily on-the-ground application, establish absolutely essential standardized baselines. I mean, when you are running a massive enterprise, you need measurable accountability.
And I will be arguing that these systems are fundamentally coercive. They operate on entirely fictional assumptions about how a service drive physically works, and they financially penalize frontline workers for a reality that executives just refuse to acknowledge.
To understand why these systems exist, I think we have to look at why standardizing service requires setting an ideal target in the first place.
Okay.
When corporate executives design a training video mandating immediate eye contact, or requiring advisors to verbally acknowledge every single customer the second they walk in, they aren't just being arbitrary. They are deliberately engineering a psychological baseline.
A baseline that completely ignores the actual workload, but sure.
But look at the mechanics of the transaction. Automotive repair is a high-stakes, high-anxiety environment for the consumer. People are worried about their physical safety, the loss of their time, and obviously the very likely drain on their wallets.
Right, it's inherently stressful.
Exactly. So these strict protocols are designed to build immediate baseline trust. And furthermore, CSI surveys, as flawed as they might feel to the person standing on the ground, are realistically the only quantifiable method corporate has to measure quality control across hundreds of locations.
I hear that, but
without the mathematics of CSI, executives have no systemic way to ensure the advisor is acting as an effective liaison between the customer and the technician. You simply have to measure the experience to manage it. The problem, though, is that you cannot manage a complex reality using a vacuum as your baseline. The corporate expectations outlined in those training videos are designed for an environment that literally does not exist.
It's an ideal target. You aim for the ideal.
But the source material illustrates this perfectly by deconstructing the myth of the free desk. An executive walks into a service drive, sees an advisor sitting at their station with no customer physically standing in front of them, and assumes, well, that advisor is free to instantly become a smiling greeter.
When in reality, they are usually swamped.
Exactly. In reality, that advisor is performing highly critical, unseen tasks. They might be finalizing complex repair orders so a waiting customer can finally leave. They are processing labyrinthine warranty claims that require exact alphanumeric failure codes,
Which are notoriously difficult to navigate. Right, and tasks that, if done incorrectly, will cause the manufacturer to reject the claim and cost the dealership thousands of dollars. The CSI targets demand absolute perfection in an inherently imperfect, chaotic environment.
But that chaos is exactly why
It essentially turns service advisors into what the industry calls blame funnels, whose actual paychecks are held hostage by mistakes they didn't even make.
Okay, let's focus on those foundational tools corporate uses to shape behavior first, specifically the training videos. You framed the directive to make eye contact and say, "We'll be right with you," as this massive disruption to the advisor's hidden administrative work.
Because it is a disruption.
But consider the actual role of a service advisor. I like to think of them as the air traffic controllers of the dealership.
Ooh, that's an interesting comparison.
Right? An air traffic controller is staring at a radar screen, calculating trajectories, managing immense cognitive load, and dealing with a dozen planes at once. It is inherently chaotic. But standard operating procedures, specific, mandated phrases, and immediate acknowledgments are required precisely because the environment is chaotic.
Okay, but
Without the SOP, the system collapses into anarchy. A customer walking into a chaotic service lane needs that immediate visual and verbal anchor to feel that their multi-thousand-dollar investment is in professional hands. The mandate to look up isn't ignoring the advisor's workload. It's a structural requirement for keeping the customer calm so the advisor can eventually do the work.
I come at it from a different way. Notice what happens to that analogy when you actually apply it to the floor. An air traffic controller is absolutely managing a chaotic screen. But nobody's asking the air traffic controller to simultaneously pause their radar tracking, to serve drinks in the cabin, load the luggage, and explain the delay to an angry passenger at the gate.
Well, no, because those are different jobs.
Exactly. But in the service line, eye contact is not just a polite gesture. It functionally initiates a transaction. The second an advisor locks eyes with a walking customer, that customer genuinely believes the transaction has started. They march right up to the desk, expecting full undivided attention.
Which is what they should expect when dropping off a vehicle.
Except you are ignoring the mechanics of what the advisor was doing before they looked up. Let's say the advisor was in the middle of researching labor ops. For any executives listening who might be disconnected from the friction of the daily software, researching a labor operation code isn't just doing a quick internet search.
No, it's incredibly tedious.
It means navigating a maze of manufacturer databases while holding 5 different diagnostic variables in your working memory just to find the exact 10-digit billing code to get a mechanic paid. If the advisor picks a code that is off by a single digit, the claim bounces.
Sure, the administrative burden is high.
So when the advisor has to pause that highly technical research to become a greeter, their cognitive load resets. The technician in the back who needs an answer stalls out. Billable time is lost. The 3 people in the waiting room wait longer. The phones roll to voicemail.
Okay, but ignoring the customer isn't the solution.
If corporate genuinely believes that a warm, immediate greeting is the most vital part of the intake process, the logistical solution is glaringly obvious. Hire a dedicated greeter.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. Having a dedicated greeter is certainly a logistical adjustment a specific store could make, and I wouldn't argue against proper staffing. But adding a headcount doesn't invalidate the need for the advisor to have a standardized professional demeanor when the interaction eventually reaches them.
It absolutely invalidates the corporate assumption that one person can do it all simultaneously. Executives are forcing the advisor to act as the writer, the cashier, the quality control inspector, the phone operator, the warranty clerk, and honestly, the therapist.
Well, customer service does involve some hand-holding.
But when you force one person into all those roles, "we'll be right with you" stops being a comfort. It becomes a lie the advisor is forced to tell to keep up corporate appearances. Meanwhile, the line just gets longer and the customer's blood pressure rises because they realize they aren't actually being helped.
Yes, the environment absolutely becomes unpredictable. And yes, the standard operating procedures face incredible stress tests every single day. But since these procedures are tested most severely when the environment is unpredictable, we have to look at the specific, uncontrollable variables that break these sanitized timelines.
Which is usually the customers themselves.
Exactly. The friction you're talking about isn't just caused by corporate mandates, it's caused by human behavior.
Right, the customers who don't fit into the neatly packaged training videos. Because those videos assume a perfectly compliant consumer who operates on a linear timeline. But look at the specific scenarios from the book that completely break the corporate mold. Take the late pickup.
Oh, the classic late pickup.
This is the customer who arrives 5 minutes after the dealership has officially closed. The heavy metal gates are coming down, the cash registers are counted, the computers are logging off. The customer walks in and is genuinely shocked that the advisor isn't absolutely thrilled to see them.
They expect that pristine training video experience, even after hours.
Or consider the coupon shoppers. These are the customers who wait until the entire repair order is finalized, the invoice is printed, the total is read aloud, and then they drop a complex 15% off discount bomb on the desk.
Which, let's be honest, happens every single day.
Exactly. And to process that late coupon, the advisor has to go back into the software, back out the closed invoice, manually recalculate the labor, figure out which parts are eligible for the discount versus which are strictly retail, and reprint everything, all while the line behind them grows furious.
It creates a bottleneck for sure.
So how exactly is an advisor supposed to seamlessly delight the guest in those scenarios? Corporate training completely ignores the friction caused by the customers themselves, expecting the advisor to just absorb it all without missing a beat.
But see, you are missing the psychological mechanism behind brand protection here. Those highly difficult scenarios are exactly why rigorous corporate standards must exist.
How so?
Think about it. When you are dealing with a late pickup who is acting entitled, or a coupon shopper who is demonstrating a complete lack of situational awareness, the natural human reaction is frustration. It is annoyance. It is the overwhelming desire to snap back and point out that the store is closed.
Which is a completely valid human response. But why does corporate demand a script? Because human beings naturally mirror the emotions presented to them. If a customer comes in hot and the advisor mirrors that frustration, the situation instantly escalates. The rigorous corporate standards, the scripts, the training, the overarching threat of the CSI survey, they provide professional anchor. They force the advisor to swallow their frustration.
They force the advisor to act as a heat sink, absorbing the emotional energy without reflecting it back. If the advisor didn't have that corporate standard looming over them, a minor inconvenience like a late coupon could easily escalate into a screaming match in the lobby. The standard protects the multi-million-dollar brand from the natural emotional volatility of human interaction.
But the cost of acting as that heat sink is entirely borne by the worker's mental health and, vastly more importantly, their wallet.
Well, they are compensated for doing the job.
Because these extreme, unavoidable customer interactions inevitably generate friction, right? We have to look at how that friction is ultimately measured and penalized. The friction doesn't just disappear. It gets quantified, and that brings us to the actual mechanism of the CSI survey system.
The core metric of accountability.
You call it a quantifiable metric for executives. Based on how it operates on the ground, it is quite literally financial leverage. It is financial abuse.
I mean, abuse is an incredibly strong term for a basic quality assurance metric. Every major industry uses customer feedback mechanisms to track performance.
It is the accurate term when you explain exactly how the math and the compensation are structured. For the executives listening who might only look at the aggregate data on a spreadsheet, let's break down the actual mathematics of a customer service index score on the floor.
Okay, let's look at the math.
A huge chunk of an advisor's income is tied directly to these scores. We are talking about thousands of dollars a month easily, up to $10,000 or more a year, hinging on near-perfect surveys. And the scoring isn't a traditional grading scale where like a 90% is an A.
No, it is notoriously strict.
On a typical 10-point corporate scale, anything less than a perfect 10 or a completely satisfied is mathematically processed as a 0. It is a pass-fail binary. So one 8 out of 10 score doesn't just lower an average slightly, it acts as a mathematical anchor that can pull the entire month's average below the corporate payout threshold.
Which incentivizes the pursuit of perfection.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why. It incentivizes begging. Let's look at the specific scenario detailed in the material. A technician in the back leaves a drain plug loose after a routine oil change.
A major mistake.
A huge mistake. The customer drives home and the leaking oil permanently stains their beautiful, expensive concrete driveway. The customer's furious, and rightfully so. They absolutely torch the CSI survey.
Understandably.
Right. But who takes the financial hit for that survey? The service advisor. The advisor didn't turn a single bolt. They didn't touch the drain plug. They didn't park the car in the driveway. Yet the corporate pay plan zeroes out the advisor's bonus. One bad survey contaminates 40 good ones, and the advisor loses thousands of dollars. How can you defend a mathematical system that financially penalizes an employee for the physical mistakes of a completely different department?
Because from an enterprise perspective, we have to ask where accountability should ultimately lie, if not with the primary point of contact.
With the person who made the mistake.
But the service advisor is not just a cashier. They're the project manager for that vehicle's repair. They are the face of the dealership. Tying their pay to the overarching CSI score is the strongest possible method corporate has to ensure the advisor actively quality checks the vehicle before delivery.
You can't be serious.
If the advisor knows their paycheck is on the line, they are highly incentivized to walk out to the lot, physically check the vehicle, make sure there are no greasy handprints on the steering wheel, and ensure the repair was completed properly. It creates a system of shared responsibility. Without that financial tie, the advisor has no intrinsic motivation to care about the technician's work quality. The system is deliberately designed to force cross-departmental accountability.
You are demanding a physical impossibility. Let's map out the spatial reality of your argument, because you are completely ignoring the physics of the building.
The physics?
Yes! Corporate strictly reprimands advisors if they are not at their desk, ready to instantly make eye contact and right service for the next walk-in. If an advisor wanders away from the desk, they are failing the front-end training protocol.
Well, someone has to watch the desk.
But simultaneously, as you just argued, corporate expects them to be out in the back lot, popping the hood, checking the oil level, and double-checking the technician's physical work to protect their CSI score. You are literally asking them to be in two places at the exact same time, at the counter dealing with customers and out in the lane acting as quality control for the mechanics.
It requires high-level time management, certainly. But it is part of managing the overall flow of the day. You triage the priorities based on the moment.
You cannot time manage the laws of physics. If you are an executive listening to this, I want you to honestly ask yourself, would you accept a pay structure where your yearly bonus is zeroed out because the janitor forgot to empty the boardroom trash?
That's not quite a one-to-one comparison.
Because that is exactly what you are asking your advisors to accept. The survey math doesn't care who made the mistake. The advisor is forced to act as the spokesperson for every systemic failure in the building. They have to smile, apologize, fix the technician's mistake, and then essentially beg the furious customer not to destroy their pay over it.
It's damage control.
When an employee's livelihood depends on begging for perfect scores in a high-pressure environment they do not control, that is not motivation, that is leverage. It's why there is a very direct challenge to executives on this exact point in the book. Don't just do a ride-along for a single day.
A ride-along does provide valuable visibility into the daily operations, though.
Anyone can survive a photo op ride-along for 4 hours and pretend the targets make sense. The real challenge is to sit in the advisor's chair for a full month, open to close, handle the phones, the walk-ins, the comebacks, the coupon drops, and the screaming driveway experts.
It's an intense job.
Navigate the labor ops software while 3 people glare at you. Only then can an executive see the profound structural failure of punishing a front desk worker for a back shop reality.
I think it is important to synthesize where these arguments lead us, though. I will maintain that while the corporate framework clearly requires logistical adjustments at the store level, such as, investing in dedicated greeters or building better triage systems, standardizing expectations remains absolutely non-negotiable.
Even when the standard is fictional.
Without training videos, setting an ideal baseline, and without the mathematics of CSI surveys providing a unified metric of accountability, a national or global automotive brand would fracture into thousands of inconsistent, unmanageable experiences.
The system forces the advisor to take ownership of the entire client journey.
At their own personal expense.
But that overarching accountability is critical for maintaining a cohesive service enterprise.
The framework isn't inherently abusive. It is a macro-level tool applied to a micro-level environment. That application admittedly creates friction, but it is necessary friction to maintain quality control at scale.
And I will reiterate my stance, treating frontline workers as the emotional and financial shock absorbers for broken systems is unsustainable and fundamentally coercive. You cannot design a system that demands absolute perfection from an advisor, while mathematically ignoring the chaotic variables of technicians, delayed parts, and entitled customers.
The variables are definitely numerous.
Tying an advisor's livelihood, a massive percentage of their income, to an inherently flawed formula that punishes them for things they literally could not prevent is not accountability. It is a failure of leadership. The CSI system doesn't need better enforcement. It needs a fundamental worker-led overhaul that stops treating the service drive like a sanitized movie set and starts treating it like the triage center it actually is.
Well, we certainly find convergence on one undeniable point. There is a profound disconnect between the corporate boardroom and the service drive at 7:45 a.m. on a Monday.
Undoubtedly.
The executives designing the protocols and the advisors executing them are essentially operating in two vastly different realities.
Absolutely. Though we clearly remain divided on the solution, I see a need to tear down the punitive CSI mathematical structure entirely, while you see a need for better operational support beneath the existing metric.
Indeed. Automotive customer service operations are deeply complex ecosystems. There is a delicate, often precarious balance between corporate brand protection, technician efficiency, and the immense cognitive load placed on the service advisor to just hold it all together.
Which is exactly why executives, regional managers, and even everyday customers have much more to explore within the pages of your guide to customer service before making assumptions about the person standing on the other side of the counter.
We began this discussion by picturing that flawless corporate training video, the smiling actor, the pristine desk, the perfect lighting. But the book subtitle is The Mirror Edition.
Right.
And perhaps that is the most vital takeaway for anyone designing these systems. When we look into the chaotic reflection of a real service lane, are we seeing a failure of the employee, or are we finally seeing the unrealistic expectations we've built for them?
Did you know that good customer service starts with being a good customer? Get your guide to customer service by Brandon Eagle. You can find it in paperback on Amazon, or you can download it on your Kindle. Thank you for listening to Discover U Radio's Discussions. We'd like to invite you to research was spotlighted on this episode. And if they have a website, join their mailing list. Because listeners like you made it possible. Thank you for your support.